And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with you. Alan Greenfield has been interested in the occult, UFOs, strange animal sightings, paranormal experiences, phenomena like the shadow people and the real men in black for most of his life. He's been an active investigator since the early 1960s, has traveled the world in search of the truth. He wrote with Olive Phillips the book Secrets of the Real Black Lodge Revealed. Alan, welcome back to the program. It's been a while.
I've been on with you 5 previous times, so
Yep.
I hope I have something new to say, but I certainly have a new book out.
You sure do.
Yeah. Can I give you a little background on how I came to get involved with this particular book?
Well, I was going to ask you this question. Give us a little background on how you got involved in this particular book.
Well, I used to work for the Psychic Friends Network, so maybe I just read your mind. I wrote Secret Cipher, the Euphonauts, a long time ago, and it was always intended to be a trilogy. Well, the second book, let's just say one of the darker magical organizations caused me a lot of trouble, so the second volume was 10 years later. And both have done very well. When they're out of print, they fetch fantastic prices, which is not something that comes to me because I don't get, used books don't have royalties, but at least not for me. But I was going to do the third book of the trilogy on the secret chiefs of the Third Order, which essentially are the what they call in the East the bodhisattvas, or the good angels, beings who started out as human beings and who have ascended to an exalted level so that they're not in any sense corporeal anymore, like thee and me, but who try to aid humanity to attain, to ascend to a higher level. There is another group, however, unfortunately. There's always yin and there's always yang, right? And,
that's right.
I was listening to your last hour, boy. Nostradamus certainly foresaw a lot of the darkness that's going on now. And the reason I didn't write the book about the secret chiefs, but rather in consultation with my publisher, Olive, who may be on later this evening, morning, whatever it is at the moment where you are, I realized that we live in foreboding, dark times. And I really believe that knowledge is power, and I wanted to speak to the darker side of the occult, and that's why the book certainly references the secret chiefs, but the adepts, high-level adepts who have chosen, for lack of a better term, the dark side of the Force, pardon me, George Lucas, need to be exposed because they were talked about in theosophical circles and in Crowleyan circles a lot up until around 1920, and then it stopped being a subject that was discussed in occult circles. I will leave to the imagination as to why it stopped being. All I know is I brought up the subject and was told, well, high initiates don't discuss this. So that, for me, was, fodder. I thought, well, I better specialize in this. So I've accumulated a lot of information, and my publisher has accumulated a great deal as well, and we synthesized it. What I was concerned about, though, oddly enough, was not my own fate. I mean, I'm, not over the hill, but I'm on the hill. And I can see where it's down, so I don't really worry about that, because if they wanted to get me, they would have gotten me long ago. But when my first book, and it was, as it happens, my first book with a real publisher, Secret Cipher, the Euphonauts.
And that came out in 2018, 2018?
Well, that's the current edition. Olaf Phillips, my current publisher, has been kind enough to reissue every single one of my books except one, which I begged him not to reissue, partly because it was co-authored with someone I'm no longer affiliated with. But they're all in print. But the original edition goes back, 20 years.
Wow.
Of course, it's been heavily revised, but you won't be seeing anything from Illuminate Press anymore because shortly after the book was published, the publisher died under mysterious circumstances. At least two of the writers in his immediate entourage, you may know of Jim Keith. He died under mysterious circumstances, very mysterious circumstances. And there were a number of unexplained deaths, mostly of ufologists, but Jim was, he had one foot in the militia universe and the other foot in ufology. And he did books on both subjects, and he made the mistake of going to Burning Man way back, sprained an ankle, and was dead the next day.
From a sprained ankle?
That's right.
Weird.
The publisher, Ron Bonds, to whom this new book is dedicated, he went to dinner with his wife at a Mexican restaurant here in Atlanta, and took dramatically sick and was dead before morning. Now, the interesting thing is, his wife was eating the same, food, and she didn't get sick, and neither did anyone else in the restaurant. So it was a targeted thing. Furthermore, let's assume, someone gets ill in a restaurant, you assume that it's some kind of food poisoning.
Absolutely.
That doesn't kill you that quickly. That was...
you get sick, you throw up, you...
syndrome.
Unbelievable.
The same thing that has happened to certain enemies of Mr. Putin that fall out of windows a lot.
Or planes.
Planes, or all sorts of ways to die that are novel. He seems to have a high repertoire. He must have seen the movie Ivan the Terrible 16 times and absorbed the path of the poisoner. But we'll pass on him. It's pretty dark times, and I wanted to inform people everything that I know about the Black Lodge. Now, they never call themselves the Black Lodge, of course. They will lie through their teeth. Their interest is actually in enslaving or destroying the human race. You can call them fallen angels. You can call them demons. You can use any terminology you want.
Was this a place, though, Alan, that they would meet at?
That's an interesting question that I don't really have an answer for. They are the actual members of the Black Lodge are ascended masters, just like the secret chiefs. So they are not corporeal beings. They can manifest as corporeal beings if they choose to, but they are on a higher vibration, we'll say. But they're minions, people that they employ or they use or whatever. They gather here and there, but not in any one fixed location. And they use, and this is part of the reason that I wrote the original book, Secret Cipher, that they use a similar code to the one that I decoded, expecting it to change, which it hasn't. In using that particular code or cipher, I have become aware that it's the perfect instrument for having great secrecy when you're transmitting information from one person to another. So when they meet in small groups, and it's usually billed as something else, a convention for people who are interested in angelology or demonology or whatever, and then they disperse. And it's never all of them at once, but they're worldwide, and their intention is to either cause a nuclear conflagration, which brings us back to Nostradamus and others, or to simply enslave the human race in some way, mostly by trickery. They don't come out. And if this sounds like what was being talked about, the Antichrist and so forth, it's certainly of the same milieu, if it's not exactly the same thing.
Well, since you bring up the Antichrist, what I have discovered here, and you know about this, is that the Black Lodge of these evil magicians were featured in a book called Moonchild, a 1923 novel by the occultist Aleister Crowley. And in that novel, the Black Lodge was vying for the unborn child that they thought was the Antichrist. How evil can you get?
That's very evil, and that was, when I mentioned after World War I, they stopped talking about this. Moonchild, which is discussed in some detail in Secrets of the Black Lodge Revealed. The title, we went back and forth over what the title should be, so I keep missing because there's some word missing from it. I say, it's the book on the Black Lodge by Greenfield and Phillips, and y'all need to buy it because it's different. It's dark, but it offers some solutions too. And again, I say knowledge is power, and ignorance is not bliss at all.
Can you tell us a little bit about the rogue former FBI agent Wyndham Earle? Do you know much about him?
Not too much. I mean, I'm familiar with the case, but that's more on Olaf's side of things than mine. We sort of each had our specialty in doing the input for the book, and mine was, predictably enough, the magical stuff, the occult stuff, and the UFO stuff. And it overlaps. I mean, I found definite overlapping, for example, in re-examining the famous, although never before now, well understood Maury Island case from 1947, which is the first modern case documented anyway that the Men in Black appear in, also a couple of murders. It seems to follow the Black Lodge around. But so that's something that I talked about in a way that I don't believe anyone else has ever discussed it. And that's because I was privy to certain information about it that I had never had occasion to share before. And I don't try to go negative, but I thought that it was time to, talk about the real consequences of investigation. I did want to say this. My great fear in bringing out this book was not for me, and certainly not for the readers. It was for my publisher, because based on what happened to Ron Bonds and Illuminate Press, which both ceased to exist, at least in this dimension, so to speak, I was concerned about my publisher. And indeed, he had horrendous things, mostly of a very personal nature, happen to him during the course of the year that we wrestled with putting this book together. So it was I don't know, I've never counted. I imagine I have, 12 published books in print. And I've never had this kind of resistance and problems before.
Interesting. Well, he's going to join us in a few minutes, Alan. You're going to stay with us for the rest of the show, of course, but he'll join us after the break to talk about some of the things that have happened to him. Is this group, the Black Lodge members, is it still in existence? Has it been passed down from father to son, for example?
Well, not father to son, but from initiate to initiate. In other words, it doesn't run in families, biological families, but it does run in a certain level of initiation where one either goes forward, that is, becomes a secret chief, or goes on to some higher state of being, some other vibration altogether, or because some really don't want to go any higher because it involves, I don't know, ego surrender or whatever. I mean, I'm not at that level, so I can't judge. They choose to stay at the relatively high level that they're at, but to make sure that no one else ascends to that level. You even see that in some of the occult organizations that are hierarchically oriented, which is to say, they like to see people in an inferior position, but they resent anyone who might have the ability to surpass them. And they will do anything from distracting or using the various means that they have. Some of them are on the internet, and you would know about them. Some of them are trans-channeled things like Ashtar, which is a Babylonian demon. I don't know why anybody would credit, peace and love coming from a Babylonian demon with any kind of credibility, but there are a lot of people who follow that, and they have just chosen, like I said, the dark side. The only mention after Moonchild that there has been, other than a single article I did, which this was like 20 years ago, it got shouted down by the occult community. We don't talk about that stuff anymore. Maybe is the right way to put it, David Lynch's Twin Peaks, which talks very freely about the Black Lodge, and I am very interested in, he gets a autographed deluxe copy, I understand, from the publisher, and I'd be interested in his reaction to this, because clearly he has inside information. He's known as a enthusiastic transcendental meditation person, and that's not my deal, but potentially if you work with any given system, it probably can be very enlightening. And that being the case, I think that maybe David Lynch will have something to say about this. Certainly a lot of his fans have gravitated towards this book. I knew it would sell well if it ever got out, but I wasn't sure that, yet another publisher would bite the dust, or his family or something. And I kind of warned him in advance that that might be the case, but thank God he's still with us, and so are his immediate entourage, and I hope it remains that way.
Olav will join us in just a few minutes as we'll talk more about this incredible story of this Black Lodge. The websites are all linked up at coasttocoastam.com. The name of the book we're talking about tonight is called Secrets of the Real Black Lodge Revealed. It's an amazing story that's been going on for a long, long time, and it's kind of frightening considering what they can do and what they try to do. But we'll be back in a moment. Olav Phillips, the publisher of Alan Greenfield, is with us, and we'll be back with him, and Alan will be with us for the rest of the night on Coast to Coast AM, so don't touch your dial. And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with you, Alan Greenfield with us, and we're going to introduce you now to Olav Phillips, who was back with me about 9 years ago. He has been interested in the occult, UFOs, strange animal sightings, as well as Alan has. He's a modern-day spiritual alchemist, explorer of the arcane, and custodian of esoteric knowledge, publisher of the company that published this book, Secrets of the Real Black Lodge Revealed. He was born under a rare celestial alignment. His destiny was intertwined with the mystical form from the moment of his birth. Olav, welcome back. How have you been?
Been all right. Thanks for having me.
Good. Alan seemed to imply that he was worried about your safety with this book. Did anything happen?
Oh, a lot of things happened. He warned me when we started to write it. And, I thought to myself, well, I know enough about these things that I can protect myself and my family. And I did. I mean, everybody's okay and we're here, but no, I mean, it's just like a black cloud that hangs over you. And anything that can go wrong will go wrong.
Give us your perspective, if you can, Olive, on the Black Lodge. What is it in your words?
It's a lot like Alan described. If you think in those terms, if you think you have a lot of people on the show that talk about being light workers and people
Sure.
who are out there trying to help people. They're the antithesis of that. They are the darkness, and they lurk in the darkness, waiting to sabotage things and to break things and to do things that are malicious. That's their MO, that they are the opposite. They are the workers in the darkness.
Are they what we would call all of the Illuminati?
So that's an interesting question. So, like many people who come to conspiracy research or, Fortean stuff in general, there's a consensus of opinion that there's this maniacal group, just negative group out there that kind of controls the world. And I think a lot of times we ascribe it to the Illuminati. And I do think the Illuminati exists, that there is a group that's based on the one that goes way back to Adam Weishaupt. But I think a lot of times when we talk about the Illuminati, we're actually talking about the Black Lodge, because the objective is still the same. It's the oppression and enslavement of humanity. It's about control. A lot of the elements that we attribute to the Illuminati really is part and parcel of the Black Lodge.
And where are they all over? Are they all over the country, scattered in a region? Where might they be?
Well, it's like Alan was saying, that I think a better way to explain it is that they function like terrorist cells. So you have this element, right, that is up in the ether, like the secret chiefs of the bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the adepts, the magicians, those black magicians that you talked about from Moonchild that are described, they meet, but they're more like terrorist cells, where it's a few of them that meet and they converse and discuss, and then they evaporate into the darkness, and then they'll go out and infiltrate larger groups that are more well known.
Is there a leader of the group?
That's the interesting thing, is that there's not a leader per se. That much like the secret chiefs, the magicians themselves, they kind of take instruction from their ascended masters, which are those non-corporeal entities that control the Black Lodge. But there's no like person that you could finger and say, okay, that guy's the leader. That doesn't exist. That's what makes them so dangerous, is because they're everywhere.
Did you have any questions of publishing this book with Alan, or was this something you just wanted to do?
That's a tricky question. Yes, he tried to explain to me the dangers involved, and like I said, I thought, well, I think we can handle it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think it was going to be as bad as it was. I mean, people who were very close to me got suddenly sick and almost died, and I attributed that to the Black Lodge. Even coming on the show tonight, I have a perfectly good internet connection. I have gigabit Ethernet, but Zoom just sounds horrible. That's part and parcel of the Black Lodge. But I think the further I got into writing it, the more dangerous it got. And there were times when I really wanted to abandon it. And I guess the best way I can explain it is the secret chiefs and the universe kind of came down and said, no, you got to write this. It's a story that needs to be told. People need to be warned. So
was this originally, and I'm talking about in the beginning, part of a Native American tribe group?
I think, that's Native American groups have concepts of it as well. It's kind of like, the vampire. Like, the vampire exists in almost every culture.
Sure.
The notion of a vampire, right? I think the Black Lodge is much like that, like the skinwalkers, right? And some of the other entities that are talked about, I think, are very much Black Lodge. And Native Americans talk about dark shaman, where you have the normal shaman, but then you have this kind of like malignant, negative shaman as well. But that also exists, in Scandinavia. The Vikings had a concept of this. The Romans, the Mesopotamians. I mean, every culture's had a concept of this negative aspect. In fact, in Messengers of Deception, Jacques Vallée talks about this kind of stuff as well, in the Middle Ages, right?
That's true. Let's bring in Alan again. Alan, you with us?
I'm sure am, and Olaf is doing a crackerjack job there. Oh, that term probably people don't know what. A great job.
Don't age yourself, Alan. Come on now.
Yeah, I try not to date myself, but I think Olaf is understating how much he has been through, and I understand a lot of it is really personal, or family related, whatever. But it's I was quite fearful, but I did give him, I think he would agree, fair warning that it would be, and I said, seek out the synchronicities that lead to the secret chiefs, because that's your best defense. It's really, there's nothing that you can, you may be a survivalist and you may live in a remote location, but your best bet is to be ahead of the game. And
it was. The secret chiefs and the universe itself, I think, really not only pushed me forward to write the book, but they protected me. And I'm not joking when I say that somebody very close to me almost died, and I attribute it very much to the Black Lodge.
Was it under mysterious circumstances, Olaf, or?
Yeah, very much so. It was like one day you're okay, the next day, we're rushing you to the hospital, and you've got a 50-50 chance of getting out of surgery.
Oh, my God. And did the doctors even know what was wrong?
At first, they didn't. We figured that he was sick for at least a month, and we had no idea. And he was actually misdiagnosed with another issue. And then just one day he fell, and it was like, we get him to the emergency room, and they're like, he might die. So it was like a systemic thing. It wasn't, there was one, main culprit that we were able to get taken care of, and now he's doing better. But no, he went into like a systemic failure, and he's going to be in rehab for weeks and weeks and
Gosh,
weeks.
that's crazy.
Get his strength back. Yeah, it was horrible.
What do you think is in the book, Olaf, that may be so damaging for them to want to do people in?
Well, number one, it's punishment to me for writing it, right? I think Alan can attest to this, that it's punishment for writing it. But I think what we do in the book is that Alan and I work very hard to expose them, because how do you make bad things better? You shine a light on it.
Right.
As a light worker, that's what you're going to do, right? You're going to put light on it and warn people. And I think that we did such a good job of systematically exposing them and what they do and how they do it, how they communicate, what are the rituals that they do, things so people could see and go, I think that guy or that person might be Black Lodge. And trust me, I was walking through a major grocery store, because I'm a human. I go to the grocery store, I buy broccoli, I had a person walk past me, and you could feel the malice. Like, you could feel the
You
malice.
could sense they were watching you?
No, they walked right past me and then stopped and turned around and kind of leered at me.
Were they following you?
No, but they wanted to make sure I knew they were there.
So they just wanted to make a presence, just to let you know We're here whenever we want to be.
But that's because I'm exposing them, right? Alan and I expose them, and I think it's very, like, in very detailed terms, we expose them, and I think that's the problem.
Are these wealthy people?
They're rich and poor. I don't think unless Alan disagrees, I wouldn't say that it matters. If you're rich when you start, you're poor when you finish.
I mean, Alan, are they like billionaires?
Some of them have to be. The first person to tell me anything useful about the Black Lodge, he had his own way of dealing with it, but Dick Shaver, Richard Sharp Shaver of the Shaver Mystery fame, was a guy that I knew quite well and didn't always take seriously, but he said, these beings employ humans. I said, what humans are going to work for the dark lodge, Black Lodge, whatever term he was using at the time, Diro, I think, was his terminology. He said they employ people in the criminal underworld, and that would include, shall we say, oligarchs and mafiosi and people of that ilk. They also have a certain number of people who claim to be light workers, and I think Olaf will bear me out on this, that they do the opposite claim of what they are, but the stuff that they preach or channel or whatever subtly puts people off the track, especially investigators, especially field investigators. And I have been a field investigator myself and had one encounter with the Black Lodge that was pretty terrifying, but it's a long story, and I don't know that we've got time for it tonight. But it's something that clearly somebody is bankrolling the humans that work for the Black Lodge, because, as I said, their goal is either the enslavement or the destruction of the human race. They're not interested in doing anything good. So what kind of people would work with them? Well, the same kind of people, maybe the same people that, in the 1930s joined the silver shirts or the German American Bund,
right?
Or another corollary, the Communist Party USA during the 1950s. I mean, they were never effective, but you wonder, did all their money come from Moscow, or did some of it come from the Black Lodge? Because to be candid about it, the Black Lodge, as far as I've ever been able to tell, don't care about our politics, don't care about our religious views, don't care about anything. What they care about is power for themselves and to set one group of people against another. You might have seen something like that earlier in the day, yesterday, in the U.S. Congress, so it goes everywhere. And I think that we need to be vigilant and need to be able to spot these things. I mean, for me, it's fairly easy because I've been dealing with this for a long time. But I could walk out of my door and vanish from the face of the earth, and I don't know how I would go out, but I wouldn't be surprised. It's of course, I keep a katana right next to my door in a shell casing from.
Do you have any regrets, Alan, in writing the book with Olaf?
No, none whatever. First of all, it needed to be written, whether people read it or not. But the first month, it's only been out, 3 weeks, Olaf?
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah.
The number of people who have had positive things to say about it, and the number of people who have bought it, and the number of people who are talking about it, you can't tell from a month, but I would say we're getting the word out. And, not to blow my own horn, or Olaf's for that matter, because he's my publisher, but it's a good idea to read the Complete Secret Cipher, the Euphonauts first, and then read the Black Lodge book. It makes it's meant as a trilogy, and it took me a long time to get to volume 3. But Olive went to work, and I went to work, and we argued, and we went back and forth, and we probably missed some proofreading stuff, and there will always be somebody out there who said, "You spell wrong," or whatever.
Well, that happens. And Olive, do you have any regrets publishing the book?
No, not at all. I mean, it was a horrific experience at times. It really was. But no, because it had to be done.
All right, well, stay with us. We're going to take a short break and come back and take phone calls with both of you. Alan Greenfield with us, Olive Phillips with us. They have written a book called Secrets of the Real Black Lodge Revealed. It's what I would call the unknown group out there, folks, called the Illuminati. They're very wealthy, they're very powerful, and they do whatever they want. We'll be back in a moment on Coast to Coast AM.